Imagine yourself to be a 14-year-old boy and you're at your local karate club and you're in line practicing the forms, trying to adhere to the dojo etiquette and to stay focused. But at the corner of your eye you notice your mother is showing off your new iPod video to another mother inside the karate club, talking about what a tidy piece of gadget it is, how far the technology's come from cassette players to Walkmans to this little device, and you're thinking to yourself, I hope they don't see the last played video on that iPod. Back in the day the iPod used to have a safe mechanism for the 4-pin entry code. Well, it was always going to get cracked. It was hardly fucking Ocean's 11, it was my date of birth. And whilst you're in the club sweating profusely, they open up this video with porn actress Jenna Jameson and another female actress practicing their own form of wax on and wax off. And my mother and the lady are absolutely horrified, embarrassed and mortified. And if not more, I'm in the club, in the line, trying to stay focused, hoping that the ground beneath me would open up and I was to fall through the middle of it. And I don't say that story to talk about the gross invasion of my privacy at that time, but more to what happened after. I can't recall ever a conversation ever coming from it apart from an awkward car journey, and I guess I'd be more forgiving if my old man would have slapped the shit out of me when I got home for the sheer embarrassment and the fact that there's been an intruder trying to enter into the family household. And what I mean by this is the way that pornography is used as a silent weapon for a very, very quiet war. So this isn't going to be a video for someone who's okay with this usage and they feel that they can manage it and it's something that enriches their life. This is mainly aimed at those individuals that are still partaking in it but recognise it as a very reckless and dangerous outlet for them to be putting their male energy into. So I've done my job correctly by the end of this video if I've reframed, repackaged and completely ruined the pastime of watching pornography for you. Let's be honest, porn isn't free. For men, they pay in terms of their soul and their spirit, because its sheer aim is to render men docile, weak, lazy, apathetic and impulsive. It's been widely recognised that in occupied territories, porn is widely distributed in order to render and weaken the male populace. For when you have an overly sexualised group of males, they're a lot easier to manage. In essence, you've taken the venom out of the snake. For you do not have to ever worry about losing control over this male populace. You don't have to worry about uprising or unity, because one of the most basal and most important desires is being gratified and easily accessible with little to no effort. I'd be interested to see if there's a correlation between those males with social anxiety and their pornographic use. For why would a man in essence want to make eye contact and shake with his sword hand, the hand he should yield a sword with, when he's been judo gripping his sausage for most of the night? I'll also be interested to see if there's a correlation between nice guys and heavy pornographic use. For the nice guys that are keeping up this persona need to have an outlet for this sexual frustration that they feel day to day. Maybe it's time that you see if there's any correlation or any cause and effect from heavy pornographic use and your fear to want to approach the world from the inside to out. The second thing is what I call a cuckaposition. You're watching someone who you find desirable, a potential mate, someone you find attractive, be fill in the blank by another man or somebody else, in angles and positions that aren't even accessible through the human eye. You're taking something that's a first-person experience and making it a third-person experience. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you probably wouldn't see this in the animal kingdom. You wouldn't see a lion in the Serengeti taking time to sit back and watch another lion successful in their mating. And if you was, you'd probably only see it in large social group animals, maybe like monkeys and chimpanzees. But we all know the adage of monkeys only masturbate in captivity, never in the wild. So why would you want to put yourself in this cuckaposition to make something that's a first-person experience, your own sensuality, your own sexuality, repackage it, redistribute it, and make it something that's a third-person experience? And you're trying to gratify yourself from an external position. If you're a dad, you've got sisters, what are you doing still watching pornography? I guess I've got more empathy for young guys that get caught in this trap, more so than I do than older adults or men that get caught into it, particularly if they have children of their own. If you have a responsibility to children in general and you're still watching this, what the fuck are you still doing? Oftentimes you might have heard this phrase where you say, oh, well, if you're buying drugs on the black market, you're funding crime, or you could be funding terrorism. Well, who the fuck are you funding, and who is the beneficiary of this porn habit? You might think it's these two people enjoying it in this moment, or you from the third party in this Cuckaposition, but who truly benefits from this experience? Because I'm damn sure it isn't you. She's somebody's daughter, she's somebody's everything. Why don't you think about that while you're wanking on the internet? If you've got daughters, you really have to compartmentalise what goes on in this industry for you to be okay sitting there watching it. I want to call this section mass debating for counter arguments to what I've shared in this video. So the first one will kind of be, oh, it's natural, it's a natural thing to do. I think it's important to remember there's a difference between what is natural and what we're accustomed to. Just because pornography has been more and more accessible in maybe the last 50 to 60 years doesn't make that natural and in accordance with what we would call nature or natural law. In fact, it goes against that, and it's pretty much an inversion of those things. So it's really important, if someone's going to come from the position of, oh, but it's natural, you know, everyone does it or has desires to want to do it. The issue isn't the desire. The issue is the redirecting of a very important desire that really stops the access of true libido. So it's not coming from a position of saying that desires as a man are wrong, but the outlet in which you're choosing to experience a desire is not only counterproductive, it's also destructive. Really find a distinction between what we're accustomed to, what we've been drip fed, what we've been promoted to enjoy, and what is truly natural in our most organic or primal form. The second one that someone might say is they go, oh, you're just approved, you know, you're repressed, I'm the repressed one. So I shared that story in the beginning to say I've set both sides of the fence, and on the other side, away from this destructive habit, is a life that's uncomparably better. You're going to want to approach people in the world, you're going to have more self-respect, you're not going to have this self-loathing and this guilt that's associated to this desire that tends to grip a lot of people when tied to this addiction. And I'll be approved and I'll be repressed. But that's not the point of what this video is about. It's not to shame anyone who does this, but it's mainly to say, have you ever thought about it from the position that it's a weapon for a very quiet war? It's not a gun, it's not a knife, it's not a tank, it's not a bomb. Oh, but I have to watch it because it helps me learn and I don't know what to do otherwise. Yeah, I admit that sexual education from the school system is very lackluster and doesn't really help anyone become more aware of relationships, dynamics, or let alone sex within itself. But that's like saying me watching Michael Jordan on YouTube jumping around with a tens machine on is somehow going to help my jump game and I'm going to become the new fucking jump man. It's irrelevant. I can't watch someone else do something and think I'm going to become proficient in it and it's going to belong to me just through watching it. That's one aspect of learning. And watching some orchestrated, shot millions of times, weird angle bollocks is not helping you with your confidence when it comes to being intimate with people or having sex with people. I mean, I'd rather recommend going and get a Kama Sutra book, finding yourself a partner and learning your style. It's like these martial art books. They've got some wonderful illustrations in there, but they don't necessarily help it become part of my game unless I put the practice in and find the style for me. And hours of practice, or just the understanding of these principles, has to be a kinesthetic one. There's nothing kinesthetic about watching something in the third person, and then, as I said, judo gripping your own sausage, just to feel that you're part of the party. For all of what? 2 minutes? Even that? I know potentially with this video I'm going to catch a lot of flack, because those who defend it vehemently tend to be those, ironically, that are on the precipice of wanting to change and are riddled with so much guilt and shame around it, but come down hard on anyone who speaks out against it. And this is, as I said, an area that I've sat on both sides of the fence, so this doesn't come from a position of just bashing for the sake of bashing. This is recognising a lot of men struggle with this, and it's a weapon designed to make them weak. So if you want to put venom back in your snake again, if you want to have more bite, then I really do suggest you review this really strange weapon that's been used and normalised in the modern world, that ultimately ruins relationships, creeps into marriages, ruins the sovereignty of a man. How many times will you have to look on these channels, like these social media platforms like Reddit, where one of the people in the relationship are still addicted to porn yet have a partner in a relationship? You should be your own porn star. Why are you watching porn as well as having a partner? I don't quite understand how something so unnatural has been made to be accustomed as if almost to be natural. Really shows you the power of the weapon. If you are anxious and fearful, if you lack courage and confidence, and you are heavily into pornographic use, and in time you look back and thought, maybe they're connected,